Hello, good morning from Hong Kong. And hopefully a few of you will join me. If you're catching this later, it's actually the evening on the West Coast. And I'm super excited to talk about this topic today because in all the years of all the amazing creative entrepreneurs that I have had the honor of working with, and then also even myself as a creative entrepreneur who has had so many different interests and so many different passions, I can tell you this shows up in my life as well. And that is the topic really of how we have so many things that we want to do all the time, so many ways that we are blossoming and evolving and our work is evolving, and that we are constantly being faced with needing to prioritize our time. And because it's so easy to want to say yes to everything, one of the big challenges with that is that we end up not really creating the space that's needed to do the deep work that we really need to do, the focus to clear the space on the one thing that really needs our time and attention. And I'm just as guilty about this as anyone, but I've definitely really gotten good at what I call clearing the decks, which is just when it feels like you're having to completely ignore everything that wants your attention. It's like a conscious procrastination is another way I describe it, is like you are consciously setting things down in order to completely focus on what needs to happen. The reason why I'm so passionate about this is that I just see so many entrepreneurs. I help entrepreneurs all the time with this that are brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant, and they have so many gifts within them and so many capabilities, but often they're undermining their own talent or self-sabotaging their own success because they're just simply trying to do too much. And it's fascinating actually, because I will see this behavior that it really threads throughout your whole life. So, something you can take the inquiry for yourself is to really look at all the different ways and how you're showing up. So for example, someone that I work with or have worked with, little things like the way that some of my clients maybe show up to a call where it's like they're just like sliding into home base, and the fact that they're not, I always have people arrive on the calls. I request that you arrive on the call in a quiet place where it's safe to talk. And it's, one call in particular that I'm recalling is that she was like outside, there was people around. It wasn't a safe place to talk. People were interrupting her all the time. She was late to the call. Her papers were flying everywhere. And it's like such a great example of her not taking care of herself. She's paying a lot of money to be on a call with me. This is an investment that she's making, and yet she's really not creating that space to honor that investment, to honor that time for herself, to really make sure that it's taken care of. And that starts, with all of your intentions. How are you clearing the space? Where are you setting clear boundaries for how you're showing up to your work, with yourself, in your life, right? And really getting clear on how you want to be showing up. Do you want to be showing up for yourself in a way that's going to be honoring yourself in the best way you know how? And quite frankly, one of the most important things when you are doing that, if and when you are committed, commitment is a really big word here, committed to showing up on behalf of yourself. That means knowing what to say yes to, knowing what you want to say yes to, essentially what you're wanting to bring forth, what you're wanting to call forth, what you're wanting to create space for, to focus on, to then manifest in your life, to create the space for it to come into your life, right? And when you know what that is, and you can create some space for it energetically and even physically, right? Which means you then have to put boundaries on it. Another way to say this that I think is really beautiful is the essentially like the riverbed, right? You want this really nice, firm riverbed so that you know where your attention is flowing, right? Same even with your clients. If you're working with clients, this is why everyone calls it a funnel, right? Or a pipeline, is that essentially you're helping create a very clear path for how you're calling those clients in. They're never confused because there's not a stream that goes off here and gets them like lost in the forest where it's like undeveloped and they're all of a sudden in the thicket and they forgot what they were doing with you, right? And same with your intention for your business and for your own energy, for you to be creating that riverbed that's like, this is what I'm focusing on. And that riverbed, that strong riverbed, or those strong boundaries, what's required to make those is knowing what you need to say no to. So you have to be willing to say no. And now this is where it really gets to the edgy, tricky part, because when we say no to something, it brings up a lot of our own, especially if you have been operating in scarcity already. When you say no to something, it can bring up a lot of your feelings of losing something, like you're going to miss out. So there's like the total FOMO piece, right? You might miss out on something. Or it might just be that you are feeling like, and again, this comes back to scarcity mindset and energy, but that if you're feeling like you have to hold on so tight to everything, that control feeling of like, oh no, if I don't say yes to this person, I'm going to lose this. Or, oh no, if I don't make this person happy, they're not going to like me, right? All that feeling like you have to hold on to everything. And meanwhile, you're just holding too much. You literally have so much in your hands that things are dropping out. You can't even see this thing, or you can't even remember this thing that you're holding way down here because it's been piled on with all the rest. And, it's like you've completely lost sight of what's important. You're just trying to hold on to everything for dear life. And that's the thing is that it's exactly this, which is, this dear life, this dear precious life, this dear precious gift that you have coming through you, that it requires some next level love and attention. And that means that you can't be leaking your energy to everything and loving everything and trying to do everything. That if you're spread too thin, and that ultimately you're not going to be able to give the energy and the focus to what you want. So let's recap here, is that this is all about learning what you want to say yes to. So identifying what you want to say yes to and getting really clear on that. And that's honestly, this is the first big step that so many people skip. This is what I call like being on the hamster wheel of not enough. And the hamster wheel of not enough is that you don't even know what you're working towards. You just need to know you just need to keep going. This inner critic or this thought process just says, just keep going. I don't even know what I'm going towards, but we just got to keep going. And it's like if you've ever been so busy that you don't even have time to stop and do a to-do list, you're like, I don't know, I just have to keep working. I just have to like get going on this. And that is such a dangerous place to be, because ultimately what's happening there most likely, sometimes, sure, when you're in that mode of like, there's just no time to even think about what you have to do and all the things you have to do, you just have to keep working, then you might be actually doing the things that are on fire the biggest, and you're just putting out fires. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's no way to live your life or do your business. And instead, for you to really prioritize. So there's a great book on this that you heard me say earlier. Thank you for the likes and the loves. I love that. A great book that really puts some beautiful perspective on this is called The One Thing. And the one thing is this book that, and he has actually a great podcast as well, that is really about what is the one thing that you could focus on that would completely change everything. So even if you you might have a big to-do list, but I highly recommend you actually create a priority list. And your priority list is so much better than the to-do list. The long to-do list has every little thing on it. It half the time, most of the time, makes you just think about all the things that you have to do and kind of gives you maybe an icky feeling or a heavy feeling or an overwhelming feeling. But your priority list can really help start put things in perspective of like, where is my time and energy going to be most effectively spent today or this week or this month? Right? So if you have a course you have to launch, you have a book you want to write, you have a bank account that really, really needs money, that means you need to get laser focused on bringing that in. And you need to get laser focused on creating space to do the deep work that is going to essentially knock down that first domino and the next domino and the next domino. So getting clear on this priority list is absolutely crucial. And then once you have that priority list, what you can often do is ask yourself, and the one thing we'll walk you through this, it's really, really a beautiful framework. It'll walk you through, out of these priorities, what's the one thing that would make a difference? And again, you need to be clear on what your goal is. But so if your goal is to, grow your community or bring more clients, often what people do is they do something that is all they know to do, right? We don't know what we don't know. And so I see this with clients all the time, where the way that they have been making money and the way that they've been doing things is the only way that they know, right? And so when they need money again, they do the only thing that they know. And then they keep themselves in that loop of all of a sudden needing money again. And so as a business coach, one of the priorities there that I would see immediately that needs to happen is that they need to be creating more of a consistent stream of leads, and so that they don't all of a sudden get busy in the work and then there's no leads coming in, and they all of a sudden look up from the work and there's no more leads and they're back to the drawing board. Right? So something has got to change in the way that you are bringing in your leads in that way, or you're bringing, even the way that your model, essentially, it's really the business model that you're in for that reason. I'll give you another example that is just incredibly powerful. So as a multi-passionate, which I have no doubt that anyone who's watching this is a multi-passionate, right? If you are passionate, if you're creative, if you're visionary, it often means that you have so many passions and interests. And while they may have a really beautiful thread and a focus, if you're an idea person and you've got all these ideas that are just like popping all the time, most of the time it can very much feel like squirrel, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally doing this. And then you just see this bright, shiny object and you get so excited about this other thing. So I'll talk to a lot of people where they may come to me for one thing and then they're like, oh yeah, and I'm also starting this thing over here. And this is where I'm like, red flag, like what's going on? Like here you're investing all of this in here and you say you want to make some progress here. But what you've essentially done is just told me about this huge leak of time and energy and focus over here. And so if you genuinely want this to happen, but you're over here spinning this plate and you're over here spinning this plate and you're making sure that this person, sorry, little plant, you're making sure that this person is happy and you're still, it's just amazing. Essentially what starts happening is you start feeling so spread thin and no one thing gets your attention, including yourself, right? Or your relationship or your children or what have you. Often one of the biggest things that goes is our health, our own self-care is kind of the first out the window, sadly. And so it's really interesting because as a coach who wants to support you so much with all of your, creative endeavors and your creative inspiration, it's really like this essentially I'm kind of coming in as your pseudo riverbed. I'm like teaching you how to build this riverbed, and I'm saying, okay, down the line a little bit, maybe that's going to be there, but right now let's get really clear on what's most important to you, because it never fails that we're trying to do all these things, and sometimes we are spinning a lot of plates, and if you feel like you're good at that, that's one thing, but often we actually misjudge. We're not a really good judge of our own ability to multitask. We think we're good multitaskers, right? We think that we're really able to do this, but actually it's always going to be taking away your focus or something that really wants to make some progress. So getting laser focused on what you're wanting to make progress on, and then looking at how much your attention keeps getting pulled. I mean, in fact, a great story for this actually is when I first was in business for myself years and years and years ago, and I started to realize that I started kind of just identifying, and you can kind of develop the witness, as you guys have heard me talk about before, is identifying that the clients that would come in, sometimes I started calling like this like devil on my shoulder client, that it would be like so enticing. It would be like, this is going to pay you, tens of thousands of dollars, but you're probably going to feel all of a sudden disconnected from your body, from who you are. You'll slowly start to hate your life. You're going to have a lack of sleep, but it's $10,000 and we need you and it's going to be amazing. And, whatever that was, it was like, I started just really getting clear on like, gosh, this is this enticing work. But what I know to be true for me is that this isn't actually what is really the work that I need. So it's not always even attached to money, because sometimes that thing that's attached to the money, that carrot, is actually the thing that's not making you happy. And what's even scarier is this over here, right? The part of us that's calling us forth to be something more, or this idea within us that we don't know how to make money with yet, but that is actually so much more aligned for our heart. And so this is actually where I usually work with my clients on. They already know that they want to step away from what's no longer serving them, and they want to step over here more fully into this. But man, this is where all of your stuff comes up, right? This is where rejection, all of your stuff from rejection over your whole life, of everyone thinking that you're weird or too much or not enough or not lovable. I mean, it's fascinating when you're putting yourself out there and you're taking these big leaps and going for it. That's the stuff that comes to the surface, right? And comes to a head. So what happens is we want to go back to our comfort zone. And so you're getting so close and you're out on the edge and you have all these ideas and it feels so exciting, but then something is like, squirrel, this is comfortable. You know what this is. You know how to do this. Scrolling on Facebook all day, or doing some old way of doing your business. Well, this project just came in, and this is this money that I know how to make, and I know how to do this for this one. Usually, also, let's point out, it's one client. It's usually very boutique, which means, again, they're back working in their business versus working on their business or building something new that's going to be scalable, maybe to multiple people, or just simply is going to take them out of that habit and that rhythm of only doing work this old way that is already proven to be not sustainable physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, right? So those are a few different ideas that you can probably identify with and actually pinpoint where a few of those might be showing up in your life. But ultimately, all in all, this is really about getting clear on what do you want to say yes to, and getting that laser clarity on what you're wanting to say yes to, what are you wanting to bring in, and then genuinely operating your life. What's another great way to say it? Rearranging your life for that to come through, giving it. And this is actually where intention is so powerful. Intention in itself can be this really powerful riverbed. Intention itself says, here's where I want to go. So, some people use goals, some people say intention. You can have focus, you can have it be a priority, you can call it clarity, but your heart of heart usually knows, like, what's the one thing that you could do or you could create that is going to really change everything. And putting that focus on creating that. And it doesn't mean that it's a static one thing, that even as you're going there, you recognize, you're going to be, there's still the river, right? But you have this clear riverbed, but there's still the river. You're still, maybe going to get like, swished over here and learning how to find your sea legs over here. You might, take this different path all of a sudden, but then it comes back into the river. And ultimately it's getting clear on where are you set to go. And what this means then as well, though, is that every time you do get off track, or if you do get stuck on a rock, that you go, wait a second, my goal is to keep going down here. And that means I need to say no to this rock. I need to say no to this bright, shiny object that I saw on the side, and it got me distracted and got me all excited about doing something different. But I know that's going to take me off in a different direction. And right now, if I can just focus and clear the space to really, really create this, everything else is going to be easier, or it's going to be taking you to that next step that is possible for yourself. It might be terrifying. You might not know exactly how to get there. It might be literally taking on a whole new part of you and piece of you that you haven't done yet. I'll give you one more example and then we'll complete. Thank you for being here, those who are watching, and give me some likes and loves if you're there. I'd love to hear from you. I will give you one more example, which is that I am actually writing a book right now, and I'm so excited about this book. If any of you guys watching have written a book, one of the things that's really interesting for me to watch and kind of witness in my own process is that this book is already out there and alive in the world. I know it's there, and yet it requires me to let it out of these fingertips. It has to come through me, through my voice, through my fingertips, through my body, through my sharing of this story and putting it together. And so it's fascinating because this is my one thing. And I even notice within myself how easy it is it's not even, it is distraction ultimately, but it's really this, it's just this plain and simple, like, desire to do all the things, right? And that for a creative who's really, really passionate, it feels a little bit like death to have to like set something down or to say no. If you are someone that's just like a big-hearted person and just wants, all the people or all the love or all the opportunities or all the fun things in life, it's literally like having to, choose people instead of being able to have a whole party. Or it's like having to only have one little tiny thing instead of getting the option of all the things, and we want options, right? We want choice, and choice is a beautiful, liberating thing. And ultimately, we really, especially in this day and age, we need to be creating focus for ourselves and coming back. So I actually have this Post-it note I'll share with you right here that's staring right in front of me. Deep work is what matters. And this is so true. Deep work is what matters. You could go through your whole day doing just whack-a-mole on your emails, on your messages in Slack or on Facebook or on anything that's going to give you a notification, red notification that it needs to be read and wants your attention. And that's what we're in right now. We're in this very attention grabbing time. And so it's requiring us to build our muscles of focus, build our muscles of making a priority. And sometimes that does mean letting things go. Stop touching the mic. So it means having to let things go. It means having to really, really make these conscious choices for our time and our energy and our focus and our attention. And it really, really sometimes means that you have to let go of some things that honestly are probably very, very near and dear to your heart. And so one thing that you can do is you can lovingly, put them on a shelf. You can lovingly put them in a bubble, knowing that you'll come back to them. It doesn't mean that you're abandoning them forever, but it does mean that you're needing to create some focus right now. And learning to say no, this is like definitely a whole workshop in and of itself. But I'll just tell you that essentially even you giving yourself first permission to say no, right? Nobody else has to say this is okay for you, but you need to give yourself permission to say no, and then practice ways of saying no. And when you practice, we're talking like in an email today, you might get somebody who asks you something. And if you notice, you've got this huge to-do list. For example, you have a huge to-do list already, or you've got this thing that you're wanting to do. Somebody asks you to do another thing. You'll probably actually first notice, if you're attuned in your body, you may first notice that something like something doesn't feel right in your body, where you're like, oh, do I have to? Or God, I don't think I have time for that. Or this, it's like, it probably doesn't feel good, or something feels hard, or you might even kind of do almost like a little white lie where you say yes, but you actually are like, I have no idea when I'm going to get to this. It's almost like you have no clear intention for completing it, but it's just easier to say yes, right? Because you haven't built that muscle yet to say no. And so all these little times that you're just saying yes because it's easier, again, comfort zone, just start practicing. It might be messy at first, but I'll tell you, what you can do is you can start copying and pasting. And this is another really beautiful thing for your own energetic time and energy management. But energy management in particular, emotional energy, is when you're saying no to someone. And you can do this in your own beautiful, wildflowery way. I have definitely written emails that are like, right now I'm really clearing space to honor what's coming through. So, thank you for the opportunity, but I must humbly decline. Like, you can have it be whatever is your true voice and your truth, right? Honor your truth, like to the point that it doesn't even matter if other people think you're crazy, because guess what? You probably are, like, in your own beautiful way, right? Any author who created something, any inventor who created something, often, any founder of a company that had an idea that was coming through them, a lot of people looked at them like they were crazy or didn't understand, and that's okay. It's not for everyone to understand. It's for you to give yourself approval to laser focus on what you want to create in this life. And inevitably, you will find people when you have created something, right? When you are putting yourself out there in the world and you are using these gifts that are coming through you to serve others, you will see that reflection come back. You will find the people who are wanting that. And in fact, in my situation is a great example where I actually have a lot of clients and a lot of friends and supporters who they want more. And because I give so much time to one-on-one or my small groups, I haven't had a lot of time and energy to give more to more people. So the fact that I get to share a book with more people, to have all this really beautiful, powerful work that I've done one-on-one in small groups and my workshops and retreats, that I get to then share those with hundreds and thousands, if not millions of people, is so exciting. And it's not only just exciting for me, it's exciting for them. I've heard people that either they're maybe not able to work with me one-on-one, maybe it's financial reasons or even just time and energy. Some people don't want to do it that way, but they would love a book, right? They would love an audiobook. They would love that guidance. I finally now have some courses on my site, some small bite-sized ways that you can get a taste of my work, some some of the work that I walk my clients through and some of this transformational work. And that's been awesome to see people be able to really be able to walk through that. And I'm going to have more like that that's coming out, which is really exciting. But all this is to say that, man, it has taken no small feat to create some focus for this book and to create some accountability. And then even just even in my own relationship with myself as I continue to firm up the edges of this riverbed. You know, it's like I'm this wild soul, right? That's like constantly wanting to like create this and has this idea and wants to do this, and even just wanting to connect with other people. And I see this with my clients as well, but it's this, our love for people, love for helping people, our love for wanting to collaborate with people, you know, be in relationship with life that then has us, I mean, in such a beautiful way, of course, but it has us like tendrilled and linked to so many different things. And if you kind of think of it that way, of like this, you know, nervous system that's essentially has all this like, you know, energy going out to all these different places, and we need to bring it in to focus. We need to just, you know, energetically, you can kind of cut those cords. It doesn't mean you're disconnected from those people. It doesn't mean that they're not going to love you or like you. But that ultimately, what it does mean is that you're actually going to be honoring completely this gift that wants to come through you, that keeps knocking on your door, this idea that really wants to come through. So sorry if that was really loud. This microphone is like not that stable. So yeah, hopefully that is helpful for you. I can't believe I actually went on for 30 minutes. I was like totally going to make this a quick one, but I'm really passionate about this topic. And if you are wanting support in this, if this was helpful, if you watched to the end, please give me some more likes and love. It's so wonderful to be sharing these ideas with you. And I genuinely just hope that it's ultimately of service. I'd love to hear what sparked for you, what you're focusing on, what's your one thing right now that you're really wanting to bring into this world, what's something that may have sparked for you in this conversation that you're realizing that you really need to set down, or what feels challenging for you. If you're wanting some guidance on knowing how to say no, if you're wanting some guidance on how to energetically set some better boundaries for yourself, if it feels flat out terrifying and scary to start saying no or let go of some of the major things, that you might even have something that's like coming to you that feels really like intuitively you're knowing that you need to let go of, but it might feel really, really scary. Like it's a really big thing that feels like literally death on the other side. I understand that feeling and really relate to it. So feel free to reach out to me, whether you leave it in the comments or PM, and just know that I'm here supporting you and wishing you all the best. Really wanting you to just act on behalf of your genius, double down on your genius, and manifest all that you want to create in this beautiful, beautiful life. Mwah. Lots of love. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. Thanks for being here.